12 for more on the state of the nation and the anticipation thereof. I'm joined by Labour Analyst Mamokgethi Molopyane. Good afternoon, Mamokgethi. Thank you very much for joining us. We know that unemployment is a huge problem in South Africa. We've had structurally high unemployment for the past 25 years or so. And as we know, youth unemployment is said to be a ticking time bomb. The President has come up with previous initiatives, but we just don't seem to be denting the problem. What are your expectations around what he'll say this evening, and what do you think he should be saying?
I think I'll start with good afternoon. Thank you for having me. I'll start with what I think he should be saying. He should, as the presidency, be saying, we are no longer going to have a generic approach to unemployment and the impact that the pandemic had on the labor market and employment, but we are going to be specifically focusing on COVID-sensitive sectors, because they also happen to be sectors in South Africa that employ the low-wage worker, but also that employ many people. So they are going to target government's intervention program towards COVID-sensitive sectors. And here we are referring to your hospitality, your tourism, and also in part temporary workers in different industries. And then second, they're going to look at it geographically. I emphasize this, I even wrote about it the other day, to say, so whenever there's a generic approach to a problem relating to employment, job creation, and even solving an economic crisis problem, we tend to look at it holistically. But I think it's crucial in the context of what has happened now, even before the pandemic, what has happened now, to focus on areas that are deeply affected by the subsequent displacement, the subsequent job losses, and the subsequent closures of businesses that are no longer going to be returning. And when you look at different provinces, they are affected differently, the same way with cities and rural areas and peri-urban areas. So it's important that we factor that as South Africa. And I think government needs to ramp up their effort on that, to simply say we are going to put a stimulus package towards tackling the effects of the pandemic or unemployment. It's not clear. In fact, I think it's simply bandaging over the problem. Be specific as the presidency. That way, your ministers and those who are meant to implement it further down the line are very clear that you had already stated this. And hence we are seeing such a confusion, even with for example, with the stimulus package. We have seen that the Department of Employment and Labor has not really been effective in ensuring that the low-income workers who are severely affected are benefiting from the stimulus that government had put forth.
And then what about the issue, I hope you did hear that insert that was played before our discussion, the discussion that's being had about job quotas. What do you think about that in principle, and do you think it's something that the government should be considering?
In principle, it is something that the government should have engaged with a while ago. To simply come out now and discuss it appears to be responding to political pressures. And I do not think a government wants to be seen as responding to political pressures. That said, there are certain positions that or jobs that require certain skills. And of course, it makes a point for the labor market, for the working age population that we have, that simply cannot find jobs, to say, hang on, we went and studied, you said we must be graduates, we've studied, but somehow we cannot find jobs, and you are saying to us this skill scarce, it's because we do not have the skills, you have to take them from other countries. It simply is not working. So we are sitting at a bubbling point, in the sense that those who are of working age population, mind you, we are looking at 15 to 24, 25 to 35, they have the highest unemployment rate in the country. They have many of them have never really known work. Many of them have never worked. And on top of that, you have a high percentage of African Black women who are unemployed, remains unemployed, and the cycle continues. So it's not surprising that there is pressure to say, what about putting those young unemployed people first before you're looking for skills elsewhere? However, we live in a global economy where as money moves through countries and continents and regions, so does work and the kind of skills and labor. And so you cannot simply say in isolation, we are going to be restricting movement of labor, but also we are going to be determining how who gets to work here and who doesn't, especially when your economy has multinationals that are based here that are also going to be bringing about investment and will be saying they are bringing about their skills and expertise here.
Now, we know that even before COVID, our education system, particularly the public education system, has had its challenges. But since COVID, of course, those have been massively exacerbated because obviously the lockdown restrictions, the rotational learning and so on and so forth, kids not being able to access digital means to learn and so on and so forth. Would you hope that the president would be able to speak around how they're going to help some of the students who have basically lost out for the past 2 years in order to get them, on top of things so that come the time they're matriculating, they have half a chance of being able to feed into the labor market?
Oh, absolutely. And I think this is where we are failing as South Africa. Over the past few years, the state of the nation has tended to focus on putting money or throwing money to where the problem is, but not really technically coming about with key policies that are going to guide, for example, our education as to how is it that it empowers our students. And we often talk about STEM subjects, but what has really been done in terms of empowering educators, empowering schools in rural areas, empowering schools in urban areas to be able to cope with the kind of skills that are needed for and even empower teachers to be able to teach STMs and for our students to be able to take that. We know that, as I had made a point earlier, we run the risk if we do not improve education in South Africa of having 2 or 3 generations of women in one family who cannot find work, who are left out of economic participation, who are neither the labor force and can never enter the labor market simply because they are women and they are shut out of economic activity. And we know what the implication of that are. Education by far, as we have seen, remains a key for many a girl child and women in the African context, in developing countries really, to get out of the poverty that they're in and better their lives. But also, if we are going to lessen the burden of dependency on social grants, this is the area I think government need to focus on, and to simply allocate the biggest budget to education does not necessarily mean government is solving the problem that is inherent in our education system. In fact, it comes off as if you are bandaging an existing problem and saying money will solve it, when technically when we need a technical expertise and a new way altogether of thinking about education as we tie it, because it's not alone, as we tie it is intertwined or intersectional with everyday life and everyday experience and the economy.
Indeed. Mamokgethi, always good getting your thoughts on various issues there. Mamokgethi Molopyane, she's an independent labour analyst.